And you gonna get off his corners? You gonna leave his people be? Or you the one that's gonna find yourself a new plug?
You don't mean that shit?
The fuck I don't. I built this shit. Me. Brick by brick. And I'll be damned if I let you tear it down just cause you don't like the way another nigga talk.
Okay. When I say I built this shit brick by brick, I mean I'm self-made. I put me together so I define who I am in the end. I built this shit brick by brick, and the pair Nigel Sylvester's brick by bricks. Niggas try and box me in like a 6x6. Rather be judged by 12 before I'm carried by 6.
What up, y'all? What up, y'all? We back. Brick by Brick, episode 3. It's been a minute. My bad. I've been real busy. A lot of shit going on. Life be lifing. But we here. We getting back to business. Up north checking. Got my brother David Sell coming. Calling in a minute. He should be, count should be over in a few. He should be giving us a call. Episode 2 was with Jonathan. The sound was a little choppy. We got it together. I think I got a better plan. We gonna do episode 2 over again with Jonathan because Jonathan need to be able to tell a story. I need to hear from that brother. So we definitely gonna shoot that over again. Maybe later today or tomorrow, but we're gonna try to do this more frequently for y'all because we understand that this is needed. Again, we changing the narrative, we changing lives. This is what we doing. This is our purpose here. This is Brick by Brick. I'm your host. Whatever, that's my name, but everybody call me too. My co-host is currently incarcerated in Wendy Correctional Facility. His name is David Sell. Y'all hear from him in a minute. Y'all have heard from him before. But other than that, man, we here, we checking in, man. Things I recently discovered in talking to my brother David. I was under the impression that after the strike was over, that things went back to quote unquote normal, but they did not. A lot of things were never returned to them, and so they still dealing with the aftermath of that. A few of those officers that killed that one brother, they did get convicted. I remember that. So. Damn, I'm outside. I see I'm outside. My coffee got cold real quick. I figured I'd come outside real quick. The wife working from home today. She inside. Kids asleep. My mother in the basement. A lot of shit going on, so I couldn't. I was, it's still nice out. Let me go outside, get some fresh air. This is where I'm at. I don't live in Brooklyn no more. For those of y'all that follow my page, a matter of fact, now that I'm speaking on that, hit the subscribe button. Share. Let the people know. Forgive my Brooklyn. We here. We focus. I'm not just Brick by Brick is a segment that we do on the page, but I'm also on here at Forgive My Brooklyn, YouTube, TikTok, not so much Instagram. I'm on Instagram, but I'm not on there often. But we there. So any minute, like I said, I'm waiting on the brother David. The count is not immediate. He in honor block, so as soon as the count finish, they gonna bust his joint, and he get to go to the phone. They got the phones. All right, for those of y'all that don't know, in New York State correctional facilities, they have tablets in their cell now. If you can have somebody that can afford to buy you a tablet, and they can make phone calls from their tablet, but for some reason, the sound quality on the tablet is horrible. So the reason that we wait, otherwise we could have did this from the cell. The reason that we're waiting is so that he can get out of cell and use the landline on the company phone so that the sound can be clear. That was part of the reason when we did the show with Jonathan that the sound was choppy. There was too many people on the phone. It was Jonathan called, David called, Juan was calling from someplace else. He wasn't calling. He had logged on. We was trying to get him to see. Keisha was on. Everybody was on. So it was a lot though. But other than that, man, I think we got it together. So until David picks up, man, what's going on out here in the world, man? People still out here committing crimes going on. There he go right there. Hold on.
Hello. This is a free call from
David.
An incarcerated individual at New York State Department of Corrections and Community Supervision. This call is subject to recording and monitoring. An incarcerated individual's use of institutional telephones constitutes consent, and your calls may be provided to law enforcement agencies. To accept this free call, press 1. To refuse. Preventing suicide is important. If you have concerns during this call, please contact the individual's facility to communicate with them. Thank you for using Securus. You may start the conversation now.
Hello?
Peace. What's going on?
Peace, bro. How you doing?
I'm good, man. How you? We live, man. We here. They waiting on you. I told them you was coming.
I'm here, man.
So what's going on, man? How you been, bro?
My first reaction to that question is always usually I'm good. And I remember somebody telling me recently, sometimes you got to take that mask off and let people know how you really feel. Because if nobody knows how you feel, they don't know how to counter it. So, it's a struggle. It's a struggle. And I think the trigger with me, I feel depressed. It's stressful. And just from doing 28 years and, you see your family going through situations that you feel as a man that you could prevent or help them with. So on top of that, the trigger was the strike and the residual effect of the strike.
Yeah.
And what's happening now is that a lot of people don't understand that as prisoners, we like to find a routine to keep us busy. And everyone's routine's been disrupted. So what it's causing is a level of frustration, stress, depression, and that's not being addressed right now. This is a different environment right now. Just the energy that people give off. People isolating themselves. People don't know, what's going on. When are they going to run rec? When are they going to run programs? If they're going to run programs. So a lot of people, including myself, you just really detach yourself from it and try to find a new routine. And, that's difficult. That's difficult right now because nothing could compare to anything, as far as with programs and going out to the yard and working out and, going to therapeutic programs and visits. I think I've seen my wife one time in 8 months.
Wow, that's ridiculous.
So, yeah, now it's affecting my relationships. And one thing I always tell people is that the state, they don't know how to pivot in situations like this. And what I mean by that, when you go through situations like this, when you have this illegal strike, shortage of staff, you have to know how to pivot so at least we keep rehabilitation going. At least we keeping families connected through the visits, through the trailer visits. We've lost everything, and we're being punished for it. And there's no accommodations being made. So this is probably the worst time. I'll be honest with you. In the last 28 years, this is the toughest time that I've ever experienced because I'm recognizing a difference in myself, and I'm trying to address it. So I just don't speak for myself. I speak for others. Individuals with newborn children that haven't seen their kids. The kids asking, why daddy doesn't want to see me. So I recognize it. I recognize the difference in how my relationships, I think, more importantly, are being affected because it's putting me in a different space where sometimes I don't want to get on the phone because I'm feeling a certain type of way, and I don't want to give off that energy to my wife or my children or my parents. So, it's not easy, man. It's layers to this. It's layers to this. People, hope is gone. Hope especially for a lot of the old timers, it's gone. We went through this last session with these legislators and not one bill was passed dealing with good times, and plenty were presented. So, it's like, what type of, a lot of people feel hated. Like, do they hate us this much?
Yeah, well, the current administration it doesn't seem like anything is going to get done with this current administration. And let him tell it. This is the last administration. He claimed, let him tell it, we ain't having no more elections. So I mean, only time will tell. But
this is not gonna. I'm gonna be honest with you. This is not gonna get better. Nobody wants this job. I think they're short 6,000 offices. Nobody wants the job.
Is that as a result of people getting fired from the strike?
Right. So yeah, they're short 6,000 because people were fired from the strike. So what's happening is that during the strike, everything that these officers were saying on the picket lines is biting them now. Because they was painting this picture like we're animals. It's dangerous in there. We're getting stabbed and raped. I mean, they're using this type of language.
Yeah, I know. It was so crazy. During the strike on social media, suddenly there was a large amount of video from inside of facilities that we had, the type of stuff we had never seen before. All of a sudden, these surveillance videos of violent acts were being released all over social media, making it look as if this is what's happening all the time. Like this is, and it's isolated incidents. I'm not saying there's no violence, but there's violence everywhere.
Yeah, there is, but not to the level that they're trying to portray it to be. So when they try to further their agenda, they try to control the narrative, and that's what they do. They'll start posting these videos. When these bills, it's funny because when these bills were pending for good time bills, it was about 5 good time bills that were pending. All of a sudden, you had news stations highlighting violent stories, highlighting shootings, highlighting victims of gun violence, which I sympathize with. They're all victims of gun violence. Don't get me wrong. I have victims of my case.
I was a victim of gun violence. Like, yeah, we get it.
Right. But what we need to focus on is who a man or woman has become today. It's like this. If you're suffering from cancer and they put you on chemo, and after the treatment there's no more signs of cancer, what sense does it make to keep a person on chemo? It's only going to be damaging.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say that is because if you have a man or woman in prison and the sole purpose is to rehabilitate this man or woman, send them back into the communities, at the point where they're at their apex of rehabilitation, when they're rehabilitated, what sense does it make to keep them in prison further? It's only going to be damaging, mentally, emotionally, physically. And this is why you have such a high rate of mental health issues in prison. This is why 2 years ago you had the highest number of suicides on record in New York State. But you won't hear about those type of stories. So who's assessing the people who have 50 years to life, 75 years to life, 100 years to life, that have 20 and 30 and 40? Who's assessing them, first of all, who's assessing them to see if they are rehabilitated? But even more importantly, what avenue is there right now to release a person who's ready to return to their family and their community, to benefit them? And there's only one avenue for that, and that's the governor utilizing the power of her pen to grant clemency, to commute sentences, which she has not done one time this year. Not one time. So, this is what happens when politics is intertwined with the prison system, because the tough on crime rhetoric still wins elections, sad to say. It still wins elections. And these politicians fear any type of change, and the change I mean is change in the system where a man could do half his time like other states, other red states, you do half your time and go home. They fear that change because it may backfire on them politically. So now you're not working for the people, you're working for yourself.
Yeah.
And I don't think the cry is loud enough from us or from our people. And that's the honest truth, because we've been conditioned to believe this is our norm.
Yeah.
We grew up in a community. My children, to be honest with you, thought, having a father in prison is the norm, because 5, 6 of their friends were serving 25 to life sentences. Fathers were serving sentences. We think it's a norm to to be a part of gun violence because it was present every day. We were losing friends on a regular basis, and it's the mindset. We have to get out of that. And once we get out of that, we understand that this is not our norm. It's not right, and it can't be our norm. Then we have to make that push. You know, you had 2 men murdered in docks this year. Well, earlier this year, or maybe the latter part of last year. 2 men. And it was a slap in the face for us not to get anything. Nothing at all. Where's the humanity? Prison reform is still the only taboo topic in New York State.
And like you said, it's like the push from us, it's not a lot. And it's because, you know, not to make excuses for myself or for anybody, but, you know, those of us that are on the outside now, shit is rough. And people are just busy living their lives and trying to raise their kids and keep their bills paid and, you know, trying to make things as comfortable as possible for their family. And you know, you don't have the type of time and required to really get behind this, and that's one of the purposes. Remember, that's why we said we was gonna start this show and go live and all that. So try to get the word out, so you know people understand.
Absolutely,
like, because it's needed. It's definitely needed, man.
It is, and this is the beginning. You know, utilizing these platforms to tell our stories. To, you know, humanity, to bring humanity to us, you know, to have the family speak, the children speak. I was on the phone with my wife last week, and my grandsons, they were over there. One is 5, one is 6.
Hold on, for those of y'all watching, those pictures that I played in the beginning and the intro, that's David and his wife and his family over the course of several years. In case y'all was wondering, y'all could go back and look at that again. Go ahead, sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead, finish.
Right, so, you know, one of those pictures is so significant because it has all my grandsons in there. And, you know, this is decades of incarceration. So as my family gets bigger, I have more responsibilities as a father and as a husband and as a grandfather. And, you know, that's frustrating that I can't really fulfill my role. But back to what I was saying about they're not my youngest grandsons, but my 5 and 6-year-old grandsons. So they overheard me on the phone, so they stopped. They stopped doing what they was doing, and I heard one of them ask my wife, "When is Papa coming out the jailhouse?" And when I tell you, it was it was so many mixed emotions I was feeling. Anger, sadness. You know, I remember my children saying the same thing. Now I'm into a whole nother generation. And all I could think about is how there's one man that's blocking me from being released. The Erie County District Attorney, Michael King. So, you know, people could go on my website, come and see for David Sell. That'll give them an idea of what my attorneys and CUNY Law School is doing for me. And they submitted a application for me maybe 5-6 years ago. The governor's office finally called my attorneys. We're good to go if the district attorney office doesn't oppose it. And he opposed it. We're talking about an office that offered me 15 years. If I took that plea, I'd have been home, 14 years ago?
Yeah, and what happens is, and a lot of the time people don't realize that, and what they do, they arbitrarily opposing it. No, they didn't read that. They didn't read the application. And a lot of these applications and these motions, they rubber stamp, denied. And they, you know, that's just the way things are done.
Well, I think, for the most part it is. And for me, he knows who I am. You know, I have a lot of advocates out there that speak to him about me. He knows the work that I do through my organization with gun violence in Buffalo. He knows I have certificates of recognition from the mayor, from senators. And it's just, it's like we just can't do this. This is their stance. Prosecute, punish. Like our country just has they have an appetite for punishment and not mercy. I'm looking for some. Listen, I understand what I did.
Yeah, absolutely.
I understand what I did, and I deal with that every day. And because I understand what I did, and because I'm at a point in my life where I understand the consequences of my actions and how it affected the victim's family, how it affected my family, how it affected my community, right? That prompted me to start my own nonprofit and to deter these younger kids from gun violence.
Yeah, and see, that's key what you just said. That's one of the things that people don't realize, that people don't focus on. With this, in this system, there's no room for growth and maturity. So like you said, you understand what you did. Like I use myself for an example too. Like I spent 14 years incarcerated. Nobody has ever heard me say that I didn't need to be locked up when they locked me up. I was out of control. I was on the streets. I was out of control. I was putting my life on the line, endangering other people's lives, hurting people, doing all types of shit. However, they locked me up, and over the years, I grew up. I matured. I went to school. I learned, I did things, and I realized that my actions were ridiculous, out of control. How long does it? There's no you're not given an opportunity to show that and say, okay, yeah, I did need to be sat down for a minute. Not for 14 years though. I didn't need. My son was 2 when I went in. He was 16 when I got out. I didn't need to miss his entire young life like that.
Right.
It was unnecessary.
I mean, it is, and it's almost like, when you're convicted of, violent crimes, they don't want to give you a second chance. You hear a lot of things on the news. Yeah, we're going to extend the merit time and good time, but only to nonviolence. Because of this strike, we're going to start releasing people, but only to nonviolence. So what you're doing essentially is saying that violent offenders cannot be rehabilitated.
And people don't realize that whole violent and nonviolent, that didn't exist before George Pataki. That was some rhetoric that he created.
It didn't.
And there is no such thing as a non-violent crime. You don't sell drugs without guns being involved. Just because you didn't get caught with a gun that day doesn't mean he created that rhetoric for whatever reasons, funding and whatever he was doing. He was closing down work release and all that, and we have ran with that for years. But it's a it's a fantasy.
It is. But the sad truth is that if you look at the statistics, nonviolence have the highest recidivism rate. They're coming back, so it's almost like, yeah, we're gonna promote this narrative, but we know they're coming back, so they're gonna keep us in business. Violent offenders, especially murderers and those convicted of manslaughter, and if you have 15 years in prison and over, have the lowest recidivism. 1% come back. You got to really think about these are their statistics. 1% of us come back to prison. So are we the good customers that we can't just release?
Yeah,
it costs.
It's like any other product. It's like I was telling my daughter my 12-year-old daughter the other day. She was asking me about some cream, acne cream or something, and I says, honestly, that the cream doesn't actually work. And she was like, why would you say that? I said, because if it worked, you'd only need to buy one tube and you never need to buy it again. So they need you to keep coming back and buying more and more and more under the impression that the more I use, the better it's going to get. And it's kind of the same concept.
It is. I mean, federal funding, they're going to milk it until it's dry. And I believe it's drying up because of as much money they're spending to keep the National Guards in here. So I think they've come to a crossroad where, like, listen, we're going to have to start releasing people. You have a governor that really isn't a Democrat. She vetoes any bill. I mean, they've passed bills that would benefit us, and she vetoes them. So, it's like, knowing that she's vetoing them, What hope does a man have? Hope is gone. After this last round, COVID brought about some hope. We felt like, okay, this is the time to pass a good time. We don't have a good time bill in New York State. And I know you remember the first bill that was presented was the Montgomery bill. That was like in 02, 03. That went nowhere. She passed away waiting for that bill to be passed. And there was such a push. You had correctional officers, lieutenants, the commissioner, the chief justice for the Court of Appeal is pushing it. It's time for New York State to change. When dealing with the prison system, it's time for us to evolve and change. Especially being the most progressive state in the country, and you're keeping people locked up for no reason. There come a point where enough is enough. I feel it. And I'll tell you, like, I don't think about, okay, I want to come home because, I want to have fun and do this. I want to come home for my family because I understand my position in my family. I understand my position and my influence in my community. I'm in prison and these kids love me out there. They never met me. But they know whatever you need, I'm going to make sure you have it. Backpacks, school supplies, teaching them trades, financial literacy. Yeah, that's our calling. That's my passion. Because I know that's the solution. So we got to catch them early. The same thing that I embraced at maybe I started making my transition at 35. So everything that helped me to change, this is what I'm incorporating in my organization. And try to reach them at a younger age. Conflict resolution. I never knew anything about conflict resolution. I never knew I couldn't give you the real definition of a man. I didn't know what respect was. Compassion. So if I want all those things extended to me, I have to give that. But I'm not giving it because I want it extended to me. I'm giving it because it's the right thing to do. You got some gems. You got people that's still incarcerated that could have a major impact in our communities. They could stop violence. Not all of it, but they could put a dent in it. Because we're credible. Because these kids could relate to our stories.
No, absolutely, yeah. But that is a very it seems like people have been saying it forever that those closest to the problem are closest to the solution, but it's something that they don't want to accept. We had this whole idea of credible messengers and all that, but it's something that they don't want to accept. It's a few of us out here. We trying to put things together. Like myself, I'm a social worker. Got a couple of other brothers I know that spent more time in prison than me that are also clinical social workers. Two of them got doctorates in social work, and we trying to put together a group of social workers with life experience, with lived experience, to teach other people, to teach other social workers without that type of experience how to work with individuals that are caught up in the streets.
Right. So and a lot of people don't want to change the problem. They'll see, okay, no, they're the solution to the problem. We don't want to change it. For two reasons. We just don't want to change, right? And they're going to put us out of business. You're going to have, you have nonprofits, and there's a lot of nonprofits that do good work. But there are also a lot of nonprofits that do just enough for funding and not enough for change.
Yeah, a whole lot of them. I've worked for several.
If you have a nonprofit and they're getting funding to, eradicate homelessness or put a dent in it, if you're a person lacking integrity, you don't really want to solve the problem because you want the funding to continue coming. So, and sometimes I wonder why people, certain organizations get all this funding, and I really don't see them doing anything. I really don't see them reaching back out to the prisoners and reaching out to the communities and reaching out to individuals, influencers to really get the word out there. We wanna just have rallies. I told them recently, please stop rallying. It's not working. You got to find an unconventional approach. You got to find a different approach to this. And the only thing these politicians respect is voting. You got the votes, you got the agenda. That's it. And that's the truth behind it. Sadly, but that's the truth. This is why the Scandinavian prison works so well. Because politics aren't intertwined in their corrections out there. They have specialists making decisions. This is an uphill battle. It's an uphill battle. And I see people quitting. I see people giving up hope. And then, like I said, you know, the residual effect of this strike, it isn't helping these guys. I literally, this is, I'm not gonna mention his name, but you know this man very well. And he came in when he was 16. He has about 32 years in. And this was somebody that I grew up in. Me and you both grew up with him in the prison system. He lost his mind, and it hurts me. He literally lost his mind.
That happens. It's crazy. Before you called, I was saying a lot of people, myself included, were under the impression that after the strike was over, things went back to quote unquote normal. But you told me a couple of weeks ago, like, nah, a lot of stuff we never got back.
And it's going to be the new norm. If you want to, like, I believe this is going to get worse. I don't believe that, you know, they just gave us free phone calls just to give us free phone calls. That's a smoke screen, because they're gonna start locking us down. We're gonna get to a point where we're gonna have 1 hour a day that's required in rec. They're gonna start locking it down.
I definitely believe that too. When first the tablets, first you can call from in your cell, then the free phone call. Obviously, they setting it up so that you don't have to come out your cell.
Absolutely. And people wonder why, like, you know, when you was here, when we started this, you know, and this is what people need to, this is why a lot of people should care, right? 2 reasons. Over 90% of everybody who's incarcerated eventually come home. So you should care about what type of person is living in your community. So you should be invested in what's going on in these prisons as far as with programming and rehabilitation. Second reason, when we first came up, it was, you know, the average cost to house each prisoner was probably $50,000. That number right now is over $1 million. How? What is that number? How do you generate that number? And I'm gonna tell you how you generate that number. Because they're giving jobs for political kickbacks to everybody, and they're creating new jobs that don't need to be created. Right? Prime example: when you and I were in prison, 3 people ran to jail: superintendent, deputy security, deputy program. Now you have deputy prior, deputy meso, assistant to your assistant, deputy administration, deputy this, deputy that, deputy mental health, deputy of RMU, right? And let's not forget about all the jobs in Albany, right? So why should people care? Because it's coming out your paycheck. They are taxing. They have over 500 people employed in central office. I got the roster sheet in my cell. I was trying to tally up how much they're spending just to staff central office, and it was just too much. It was. I stopped. This is wasted taxpayer dollars.
Yeah, man, but nobody. It's always been, you know, it's a big business and nobody's concerned. You know, they lining people's pockets. You know, money's going in and out, and nobody's concerned.
It's an educational process too for our people. You know,
you have 1 minute left.
I'm never upset with our people from our community because they don't know. So, you know, it's on us, you know, utilizing these platforms to start educating our people. You know, from a lot of different aspects and angles. Even, you know, from the aspect of the new Jim Crow. You know, sometimes things change and it's all the same, man. It's just designed differently. But, you know, there are men and women that are suffering, and families, too. Let's not forget about the families and friends and mothers and wives and children.
No, they about to cut us. They about to cut us off. I'm outside. I'm hearing rumbles of thunder and some other. I don't know. So I'm gonna go back inside. But I think we need to jump back on later. Finish chopping up. I don't know if we can get Jonathan on later today or tonight. If not, maybe tomorrow. I'm home tomorrow too. I'm off today and tomorrow. But we definitely need to get Jonathan back on. So before they cut us off, I love you. I'm gonna hit you later.
Love you too. All right.
And we get back and we definitely jump back on.
Thank you for using Securus. Yeah. Goodbye.
Brick by brick. Appreciate y'all. We be back later. Keep a lookout.